Good morning, respected teachers. Today we are going to do some of the previous year questions of English pedagogy. The questions are from paper 1 and paper 2 as well. Let's start our journey of previous year questions from question number 1, that is, a teacher of class 3 gives her students unseen passages, worksheets, writing tasks, picture descriptions, recitation and storytelling by them across the term, which means throughout the year. She has recorded the performance of the learner to include in the overall performance assessment of the learners. This record of assessment is known as overall performance assessment, portfolio, summative assessment, formative assessment, performance. Portfolio is the overall performance assessment of a child, of a student, which we collect throughout the year, throughout the academic session or for a particular period of time. A portfolio is a systematic collection. It is not random collection. It's a systematic collection of the student's work. It's the systematic collection of the student's work gathered over a period of time, which means one academic year, 6 months, 3 months, or whatever the period may be, gathered for a period of time. It showcases their efforts, progress and achievements in different areas. In portfolio, there should be progression, which means we should be able to evaluate where the child started and where the child reached. So, portfolio should show that particular progression, efforts and progression and achievements in different areas. Example, think of it like a photo album of a child's learning journey containing their best drawings, essays, worksheets collected throughout the school year or throughout the academic year. Next, a child reads a storybook of her interest. This type of reading is referred to. You must have seen that some child are in habit of reading. When they go to bed, they prefer to read a book. Let's say some novel or Harry Potter or anything out of their interest, out of their curiosity. So when we read out of our interest, out of our curiosity, it is extensive reading, intensive reading, skimming or scanning. It's neither skimming nor scanning nor intensive reading. It's extensive reading because it is in extension to the reading that we have done in the classroom or through the teaching learning process. Extensive reading involves reading longer text for pleasure, reading for fun, reading for general understanding. When we read for pleasure, when we read for interest, when we read for curiosity, when we read for fun, it's extensive reading. Example, a child is in habit of reading Harry Potter or any comic book before going to the bed. So that particular habit is habit of extensive reading. Which of the following should not be the objective? Which of the following should not be the objective of reading stories at foundational stage? At foundational stage, which means up to class 2, what should not be our aim? What should not be our objective? What should not be our expectation? Explicitly tell more moral values, enhance reading skills, develop culture of reading, enhance vocabulary. Yes, we want to enhance the vocabulary, we want to develop the culture of reading, we want to enhance the reading skills, but what should not be the objective? Don't tell the moral values explicitly. Don't give lectures on moral values to the student who are at the foundational stage. It's of no worth for them. We can tell them morality through the story, through the context, but explicitly, directly or like lecture, we cannot tell the moral values to the student who are at foundational stage because that is of no use at this particular stage. At the foundational stage, forcing children to memorize a strict moral lesson, that this is the morality of the lesson you need to mug up, is what it will do. It will hamper to develop the culture of reading. To develop the culture of reading. It will hamper the joy of reading. Student will lose the interest in reading if we tell them the moral values explicitly at the foundational stage, they will lose the joy of reading. So we have to avoid telling explicitly moral values at the foundational stage. Through the context we can share the moral values, but explicit through lecture, no, it's not allowed. A child reads an unseen passage. He is expected to answer the questions that follow. So a child is reading an unseen passage, but why is he reading? He is reading to find out the answer of a particular question, which means a child is trying to find out some particular content from the particular passage. Is it skimming, scanning, exclusive reading, or extensive reading? It's scanning. When you try to find out a fact, a data from a passage, from a table, it's scanning. Scanning means looking through a text very quickly to find out specific piece of information, like to find out the name, to find out the date, to find out some specific fact, or to find out some specific answer for a particular question. That will fall in the category of scanning. We generally do scanning at the airport, at the railway station, at the bus stand. When you just scan the schedule to find out the timing of your bus, the timing of your flight, the gate number of your flight, it's scanning. Similarly, if you try to find out the answer of a particular question by reading one paragraph, that would fall in the category of scanning. Read the following statements about reading skills. Reading is just the ability to decode. Children learn to read through involvement in the act of reading. Children learn to read through involvement in the act of reading. That's true. If children are involved, they will learn reading. Fine. Reading is just the ability, just, which means only, which means solely. No. Reading is much more than the ability to decode. Reading is reading with understanding. Reading is reading with comprehension. Reading is equals to meaning making. So reading is not just the ability to decode or find out the pattern of sound, which means A is false, B is true. Only B is true. In process writing approach, pre-writing is, which means we have to find out the statement which is related to pre-writing stage. Pre-writing stage. Okay, which means before we have completed the written task, or even before we have started the writing process. So pre-writing is one element of writing process during which writer considers what they have written and make changes in the content. If you are making changes in the content, that means content is already written, which means you are doing editing. That will not fall in the category of pre-writing. One element of writing process during which writers generate potential topics and writing ideas, maybe. One element of writing process during which writers formally share their work with a wider audience. If you are sharing your work, which means work is already done. Work is already done, then it's not pre-writing. One element of the writing process during which writers capture preliminary ideas. Now, if we say option 2, one element of the writing process during which writer generates potential topic. What can be the topic of writing? What can be the subject matter? We are generating that subject matter. We are generating that idea. If we are doing brainstorming before writing, that will fall in the category of pre-writing. Option 2. Pre-writing is the very first planning step. It's the planning step. Pre-writing is the planning step. Where what you do, where you brainstorm on the topic that you need to write. Where you do collect the thoughts, where you do collect the ideas for the topic that you have to write. It's pre-writing. A classroom makes the learners notice language through various means. Viz means namely on the wall, class library, audio and videos. This can be described as language comprehension, input-rich environment, language practice through senses, language acquisition. A classroom makes the learners notice language through various means. Language through various means, and means are wall, class library, audio, video, everywhere you find the pattern of language, everywhere you find something to learn from the learn in the language. That will fall in the category of input rich environment. When we do input, we are drawing something, we are decorating the wall, we are decorating the door from the contents of the language. It means we are making some input into the language, input rich environment. An input rich environment is a classroom. It's a classroom filled with visual and auditory language triggers. Either child will see and will try to find out the meaning, will try to understand, will try to learn, or will listen to some of the audio, some of the videos. So you can put audio recordings, you can use projectors, screens, videos to make your classroom input rich environment. Language is an effective tool for communication. Language helps to convey social messages. Language is an effective tool for communication, true. Language helps to convey social messages, it's true. You will communicate, you will pass on the message in the society. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A, option 3. We'll go with option 3. A teacher does actions which learners follow as directed, and learners are not expected to speak or use language. What is this method known as? So a teacher is doing actions. What learners are doing? Learners are following those actions without speaking, without using language, which means you are just following the instruction of the teacher through your body. When you are following the instruction of the teacher through your body without using the language, it's total physical response, because you are responding in the physical way without speaking. TPR, total physical response. The TPR is a teaching method where students react to language purely through physical movement, rather than speaking. So you are not allowed to speak that much. You are expected to do physical movement and follow the instruction that is being delivered or given by the teacher. For example, the teacher shouts, touch your nose, stand up, and students are not speaking anything, just doing that, just following the instruction of the teacher. That's teaching, learning language through TPR, total physical response. A teacher believes that free writing will help her students to strengthen their language skills. Free writing can be understood as writing what? Which means it is asking the definition of free writing. Is taken from any free source. It's not like free writing. Is based on free drawing. No. Is planned and written for a free source with focus on grammatically correct sentences. We do not focus on grammatically correctness while doing free writing, because free writing is just whatever ideas are coming in my mind, I have to keep on writing without stopping. So free writing is based on noting down everything that comes to your mind, without thinking about pronunciation, without thinking about vocabulary, without thinking about grammar, without thinking about coherence. You just keep on writing whatever is coming in your mind. It's free writing. Free writing is a technique where you write continuously for a set time, for example, for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, without thinking about punctuation, without thinking about grammatical mistakes, without thinking about spellings, without thinking about the coherence of the sentence. You just keep on writing for a particular time frame. That will come into the category of free writing. It will improve your imagination, it will improve your creativity, it will improve your language skills in terms of writing. Which approach makes use of carefully selected and graded items? Graded items, which means either you are grading the elements of the language. For example, you are grading, today we'll learn tense, tomorrow we'll learn voice. So it's gradation. Either you grade the vocabulary, we'll start with two letter words, then 3 letter words or 4 letter words. This is gradation. Okay, so in which approach this gradation is followed? This gradation is followed in structural approach. Structural philosophers do say that we need to grade the elements of language in order to make it comprehensible for the primary kids. The structural approach focuses on teaching language through fixed patterns or structures. Fixed patterns or structures that are arranged from simple to complex. So gradation is arranging the things from simple to complex. Arranging the things from known to unknown. Example, teaching students, this is a pen. Before teaching the student the complex sentence that this had been a pen. So we start with a simpler context and move to the complex context in the structural approach through the process of gradation. Which one of the following is a characteristic of the language disorder dyslexia? Reversal in reading. Dyslexia is a learning disability. First and foremost thing that we need to keep in our mind is dyslexia falls in the category of learning difficulty. Dyslexia falls in the category of learning disability. And in that particular disability or difficulty, what do? We face difficulty in reading fluency, in word recognition. Children often confuse and reverse the letters. Will read saw to was to saw, B to D, D to B. This is reversal in reading, dyslexia. Which one of the following principle of emerging literacy is not supported by Vygotsky or Vygotsky? Child-directed exploration is supported by Vygotsky. Cooperative learning is supported by Vygotsky. Adult-guided learning, which means scaffolding through MKO, more knowledge while other, is supported by Vygotsky. But drill and practice is not supported by Vygotsky, because drill and practice means you are not training the student in skills, just you are making them to work like machines. You're just focusing on repetition of the thing, recognition of the pattern, or you are helping the student to mug up the things, and as and when it is required, they'll vomit it out. That's not learning. That's the rectification as per Vygotsky. Drill and practice will be the right answer for this, because drill and practice is not supported by Vygotsky. Drill and practice. Lev Vygotsky strongly emphasized social interaction, that you need to communicate through the society, and in the society you need to learn with friends, you need to learn with adults, you need support of adults, you need support of peer, you need support of friends. He did not support boring, repetitive, isolated, mechanical training. Mechanical training, that is drill. Vygotsky would love students working together, write a story. So Vygotsky will say that make a group of 4 or 5 students, give them the task, ask them to write the story, let them write the story. But if you give the task that write the spelling of CTET 100 times, 10 times, 20 times, that is not supported by Vygotsky, because Vygotsky said it's not the learning, it's the mechanical process of mugging up the things. Comprehensible input includes using a variety of techniques such as gestures, body language, pictures and objects. Objectives are displayed in the classroom. Grouping students appropriately. The syllabus and language objectives displayed for the parents to ensure what is being taught to their children. Comprehensible input, which means those inputs which will help to comprehend, those inputs which will help to understand. Your gestures will help the student to understand. Your body language will help the student to understand. Pictures will help the student to understand. Real objects will help the student to understand. So if you are arranging these things, it means you are working on the comprehensible input. Comprehensible input, as proposed by Stephen Krashen, means delivering language just one step above the learner's current level. One step above the current level of the student, which means it is equal to the concept of the Vygotsky, where he said that through the scaffolding, through the support, we can ask the student or help the student to reach to the next level from where he is at the current position. So that is similar to Stephen Krashen. So ideas where he says that if you work on the comprehensible input, you will help the student to move to one step further. And how can you do that? You can use your gestures, body movement, pictures, objects, real objects to help the student to understand the things better. When you feel that the child is exhausted, these things will help them to move to the next step or next level. Just one next level. The deductive approach to teaching grammar says we should first present the rules. Rules to example, deductive approach, no need of discussion. We should present the rules. Okay, deductive approach is known as top-down method. Top-down method. This is the thing which we can keep in mind, that deductive approach or deductive method is equals to top-down method. Now what is top-down method? Top-down method says present the grammatical rules first, then give examples, then help the student to elaborate and understand the things. So deductive method works on the psychological principle of or steps of top-down method. Okay, read the following statements. Writing experiences promote reading comprehension. Writing helps in developing vocabulary knowledge. See, whenever you find a question that is based on the interlinking of the skills, maybe in terms of development, one aspect of development affects another aspect of development. For example, physical development will affect the mental or emotional development. It's true. It's always true because they are interconnected. Similarly, all skills of language that are LSRW, listening, speaking, reading and writing, are also interconnected with each other. They affect each other if positively and negatively as well. So writing experiences would promote reading comprehension. It's true because writing and reading are related to each other and it affects each other. Second says writing helps in developing vocabulary knowledge. Obviously, again, writing is affecting your vocabulary. So both A and B are true. A teacher of class 3 wants to conduct a pre-writing activity. As part of the writing task assigned to the students, which of the following activity cannot be conducted? Which means, which of the following activity is not the part of pre-writing activity? Which of the following is not part of pre-writing activity? Revising the draft of their partners, talking to their partner on ideas related to the topic, brainstorming ideas and jotting them on the board, giving reading material related to the topic. See, we have to work on pre-writing activity. So we'll definitely give the reading material to the student to explore. That we are going to write on essay on a particular topic. This is the book which you can take help of. Please read this. So it will be the part of pre-writing activity. Brainstorming and jotting down the ideas is definitely the part of pre-writing activity. Talking to the partner on the ideas related to the topic is definitely the part of pre-writing activity. Then which is not the part of pre-writing activity is the question asked. So answer 1, option 1, that is revising the drafts of their partners. If you are revising the drafts, it means you are working on feedback, it means you are working on editing, and editing and feedback is not part of pre-writing activity. So option 1 is the right option for us for this question. Revising drafts means looking at work that has already been written or already been done. So it's not part of pre-writing activity. A reading activity in which learners hear or read different parts of the text, then exchange information with others in order to complete a task is referred to as. So there is one reading activity, and in that activity learner is either hearing or reading different parts of the text, chunks of the text, and then they are collecting information and exchanging information with one another to complete that task. This is running dictation, running text. This is jigsaw dictation. In jigsaw activity, information is split. Information is divided. Information is given to the different groups, and then different groups will collect it, will exchange the ideas, and then will form one conclusion, will reach to one conclusion. Navomita, a teacher of class 2, has maintained a classroom library and she encourages the student to read stories. This practice should be followed too. Explicitly discuss and memorize moral values of the stories. Memorize the moral values of the stories. It's not the part at foundational stage. Develop a culture of reading. Maybe make the students memorize the more stories. It's wrong. We are not focused to memorization of things. Keep students busy for a long time while the teacher completes her pending work. Definitely not. So what we should do, develop a culture of reading. Means just keeping or making library or reading corner is not enough. Though it's the foundational thing that you prepare a library, you prepare a reading corner, but with that we need to ensure that culture of reading is also there. So the students should go there, should sit there, should read there. Development of culture of reading is also equally important, as important as making library or reading corner. Which of the following is true for emergent literacy, which means literacy is coming out of the child, emergent literacy. Literacy begins with memorizing of rhymes? No. Literacy begins with writing of alphabet? Not alphabets, alphabet. Literacy begins with writing of alphabet. Literacy comes as naturally as crawling and jumping. Literacy emerges before children are formally taught to read. Before you teach how to read, before you teach ABCD, before you teach letter, before you teach alphabet, the child shows a tendency of holding a book, imitating and showing off like they are reading. So that is the part of emergent literacy, which means literacy is emerging in the child, literacy is emerging in the student, literacy is coming out of the child. Emergent literacy is a stage where young children pick up early knowledge about reading and writing before they ever start formal schooling. So before they start the schooling, what they do? They pick up early knowledge. They pick up early knowledge about reading and early knowledge about writing. For example, a 3-year-old boy is holding a book upside down and pretending to read aloud. Is pretending, just pretends, holding the book and pretends that he is reading. That will come in the part of emergent literacy. Peer review is understood as an important strategy for improving students' writing process. The purpose of peer review is, which means the aim of peer review is, the aim of peer review is to connect ideas and build paragraph for writing, help the teachers in evaluation of writing the student, offer formative feedback to their peer which further helps them to improve their drafts, encouraging in finding faults of their peers. So peer review is the reason of peer review is not to find out the faults, so it's wrong, is not to focus on errors, it's wrong. Help the teacher in evaluation of writing the student, it's not like peer, you are doing peer review just to help the teacher to evaluate. Connect ideas and build paragraphs for writing, no. Offer formative feedback to their peers which further helps them to improve their drafts. So as peer, I am helping my partner, I am helping my friend, I am giving them feedback, I am giving him feedback that you should improve this in your draft, he will work. So this is actually the reason of peer review, in order to give the formative feedback, in order to give the constructive feedback to the partner, to the peer, to the buddy. Peer review lets classmates read each other's works to give helpful, friendly suggestions for improvement before submitting it to the teacher. Before submitting to the teacher, you are giving peer review to, you are giving suggestions to improve. That's peer review. Read the following statements. Dialects is a variety of language spoken in one part of the country, one part of the state, one part of the region. Languages have written literature, but dialects have oral tradition. Now, see, we have to see each statement separately first. Dialects is a variety of language spoken in one part of country. It is true. At different parts, the dialect will change. At a particular area, dialect will be same. So dialects is a variety of language. Hindi is not same in Rajasthan, Hindi is not same in Haryana, Hindi is not same in Bihar, Hindi is not same in UP. Though Hindi is a language, as a language Hindi should be unique, but dialects of speaking Hindi are different. Okay, so it's true. Languages have written literature, it's true, but dialects have oral tradition. That's totally wrong. Even the dialects have the literature. You can see the literature of Rahim in Hindi. You can see the literature of Kabir in Hindi. They all come into the form of dialect. They are literature based on the dialects. So dialects also have their literature. It's a myth that dialects do not have their literature. Dialects also have their literature. So it's false. Only A is true, B is false. Understands and uses new words can be a rubric for assessing. So you have made one rubric where you have written this statement, understands and uses new words. So whether this rubric will help in assessing the pronunciation, grammar, fluency or vocabulary. How this rubric matrix will help you? This will help us to assess the vocabulary of the student. Understands and uses new words, which means our rubric is focused on the vocabulary. A teacher of class 3 asked the children to draw a story as she narrates it. So teacher is narrating a story and students are supposed to draw. Through this activity, which language skill can be assessed? So once you enter into the classroom, you say that students, I am going to recite something, you have to draw. Reading skill, speaking skill, writing skill, listening skill. By drawing, writing skill, by drawing, speaking skill, by drawing, reading skill. By drawing, you can improve on listening skill. Why? Because you are narrating something and the children is expected to listen to it and then follow the instruction. So it will improve listening skills, or you can assess the listening skill by this activity. Which of the following about language development is supported by Piaget? Supported by Piaget. The development of language is a cause, not a consequence of cognitive development. Certain language concepts must be taught when the child has reached the appropriate stage of cognitive maturity. Children need to memorize grammatical rules in order to learn a language. Language development is just like habit formation. Which idea was supported by Piaget? Language development is just like habit formation, which means rectification or memorization. That Piaget didn't support, constructivism didn't support. Children need to memorize. Memorize means, again, rectification, not supported by Piaget. The development of language is a cause. No. Cognitive development happens first and then language development. So it's wrong. Piaget said, certain language concepts must be taught when the child has reached the appropriate stage of cognitive maturity. Piaget said, biological maturation, biological readiness of the child is necessary to teach them any concept. If the child is biologically ready to speak 2 words, then we need to teach 2 word sentences. If the child is biologically ready to read the paragraph, then we should focus on teaching the paragraph. So biological maturation is the foundation on which we can start the process of teaching learning. So this was supported by Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget believed that thought comes before the language. A child must understand a physical concept in their mind before they can learn the words to describe it. A toddler must first mentally grasp the concept of sizes, big or small, before they can meaningfully understand what is bigger and smaller, the concept. The basic premise of Vygotskian principle does not include, which means one of the ideas that is not supported by the Vygotsky. Zone of proximal development supported by Vygotsky, scaffolding was supported by the Vygotsky, and enculturation even was supported by the Vygotsky. But assimilation is the concept of Jean Piaget. It's not given by Vygotsky. So we'll go with option 4 is the right option here. Assimilation is a psychological term coined by Jean Piaget, not by Lev Vygotsky. Lev Vygotsky gave the concept of ZPD, Lev Vygotsky gave the concept of scaffolding, Lev Vygotsky gave the concept of social learning. The idea that language provides the framework for our thoughts is supported by language provides framework, language provides foundation for our thoughts is supported by Jean Piaget, no. Jerome Bruner, no. Noam Chomsky, no. This idea was supported by either Vygotsky or Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, because Sapir-Whorf and Vygotsky are speaking of the similar things. Their thoughts are similar. So Sapir-Whorf hypothesis says that the language provides framework for our thought. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis states that the structure of a native language, shapes, limits and determines. I repeat, language shapes, limits and determines how will you think, how your thought process would be. Your thought process, the boundary of your thought process, the way you think, the way you work on a particular task is decided by the language you speak. Let's say in your language there are 10 words to define snow. There are 10 categories of snow. Then in that particular culture, in that particular society, their idea to see the winter would be different from the society wherein the snow has only one word or two words. There are only one or two words to define snow. Like, I hope it is clear. Sapir-Whorf hypothesis says that in the society where we speak a particular language, the words we use, the language that we use will give a foundational framework for the thought process that we have, for the working style that we'll have. Which of the following is the characteristic of the learning disorder dysgraphia? Difficulty in forming letter shapes, reversal in writing, delays in speaking and acquiring language, difficulty in writing the names of the letters and the sound of alphabet. Given below are two statements, one marked as assertion and other as reason. Read the statement and choose the correct option. Formative assessment is carried out during the teaching learning process. Formative assessment, which means FA, is carried out during the teaching learning process. It's true. Formative assessment helps teachers diagnose the learning gaps, which means to identify the learning gaps and modify their teaching learning methods. Yes, we can modify through formative assessment. We can identify the gaps through the formative assessment. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. According to Noam Chomsky, children are born with an innate capacity to acquire language due to the presence of what is there in the mind of the child. With the help of that, child will learn the language naturally, will acquire the language naturally. So a child is having the innate capability, and that innate capability is due to language acquisition device, or LAD. Chomsky claimed human brains are naturally hardwired with an internal device called LAD. An internal device is there in our mind which is LAD as per Chomsky or Noam Chomsky. And that device will help to find out the pattern of grammar. That device will help to acquire or catch the language, catch the vocabulary, and children will gradually or naturally learn the language. Sorry. Language classrooms often focuses on group and pair work. While narrating story, while presenting something, while presenting drama, while doing role play. These are all language classroom activities. So while doing language classroom activity, we generally focus on grouping and pair work. Why do we do grouping and pair work? In order to improve sympathy, competition, envy or collaboration. Sympathy is also negative. Competition is also negative for CTET. Envy is definitely negative term. Collaboration. We need to teach the student collaboration. We need to teach them how to work in teams, because we need to prepare the future citizens. One day you bring some objects to the class, real objects to the class, and ask the children to name them. So I have brought water bottle, mic, etc. and I'll ask the student that these are the objects, you have to name these objects. Okay. You write their responses on the blackboard. So whatever names the child are giving, we have to write on the board and tell them that all these names used for some objects which are called nouns, and then give the definition of noun. So instead of starting with the definition, we started with the examples, we started with the real objects, and gradually help the student to reach to the particular definition, reach to the particular grammatical aspect. This is inductive method. This is bottom to top approach. Bottom up, bottom to top. Inductive method is based on bottom up approach, bottom to top approach, where we start with real life examples, where we start with real life experiences, where we start with the things, the concept that the child already knows, and then move to gradually to the concept that we need to teach. When a monolingual speaker moves from formal to informal modes of speech in the same spoken or gestured idea, it is called code mixing, code switching, dialect, slang. Code switching. Code switching, what we do? Within this, we shift within a single language. We shift within a language from the complex one to the simpler one. For example, let's say you see that the audience is not understanding the concept that you are delivering. So what do? We generalize, we use general words, simple words, we just try to give simple examples. So this is code switching. Within the language, you are switching it from the complex to the simpler one. Some words can have more than one meaning. Some words can have more than one meaning. It's true. Bark, B-A-R-K, bark is the part of tree. B-A-R-K, bark is the sound of dog. So some words may have more than one meaning. The meaning of words in a particular language relates to which of the following? Syntax, phonology, morphology, semantics. Semantics deals with the meaning of the word. Phonology deals with the sounds. Morphology deals with the formation of words, how the words are formed. If we are studying the formation of word, for example, by adding ISM, by adding ism, by adding IST, we can make noun. If we are reading these things, we are following the chapter of morphology. If we are working on sounds, patterns, phonology. Syntax is working on the sentences, types of sentences, understanding the wider thing. So answer is semantics. Semantics deals with words, meaning of words. Semantics deals with meaning of word. Morphology deals with formation of words. Phonology deals with sounds of words. And syntax deals with the types of sentences, understanding sentences, sentence patterns, and comprehensible things. Semantics is a branch of linguistic concerned with the study of meaning in a language, including how words change meaning based on the context. How the meaning of the word is changed based on the context, we understand and learn this concept in the chapter of semantics. The purpose of remedial teaching is to, what is the goal or aim of remedial teaching? Introduce a new language item? No. Then how it's remedy? Test recently taught item? No. Teach again the language item that is already learnt. Why will you teach it again? Teach again the language items not properly learned. The item that is not properly learned, we can deal with that item in the remedial teaching. Skinner opined that children would repeat sounds if they were followed by a pleasurable response. This viewpoint is the foundation of, is the core of, is the base of operant conditioning, wherein Skinner said that you just need to reinforce the thing, you just need to develop a habit, and language learning is also equals to the formation of habit. And how to form that habit? You give the student opportunity to speak. Once they speak, you just give them reinforcement. You say good words, you give a smile. That smile, those good words, those appraisals will help the student to understand that I need to make this, I need to repeat this, I need to make it my habit, so that my teacher appraises it, my teacher will appraise it again. Operant conditioning. asserts that behavior is sustained, behavior is modified by its consequences. If I have, let's say, the student tried to speak in a broken sentence and the teacher scolded. So the consequence was being reprimanded. Student would stop doing that. If the consequences are like teacher gives a smile, teacher corrects the error, teacher supports the child that yes, you need to speak more so that you can improve. Today you tried good, you started very nicely. If this kind of sentences and responses the child will get as a consequences of speaking the broken sentence, that student will try to do it again. So operant conditioning says the result, the consequence will make a learning a habit or not. Based on the observation to develop a particular skill, you decide to use the direct method in your class. For which skill will you use this method? Which means for which skill you will use direct method in the class. Listening skills, speaking skill, writing skill, reading skill. Direct method. Direct method promotes speaking. Though it promotes listening, speaking both. But since we have both the options, we have to go by speaking. We promote, what do we do in direct method? We ask the student that you are not allowed to use your mother tongue. You need to speak in the native language. You need to speak in the target language only, which means you need to speak in English only. Which among the following theorists hypothesize that children have a built-in readiness to learn the language? Which means children have innate quality to learn the language. This was the statement given by Noam Chomsky. To learn about the system of rules that govern how words can be meaningfully arranged. See how beautifully this question is designed. Words can be meaningfully arranged. Arrangement of words is equals to sentences. Arrangement of words is equals to sentences, and sentences are learnt, types of sentences are dealt with the chapter syntax. If children hear two languages spoken around them, this exposure of two languages will not make any difference, put children at a disadvantage, will confuse them, will put children at advantage. Multilingualism is a resource. So if children is exposed to two languages, their cognitive ability will also be good. So it will give advantage to the student. Input is defined as dash. A learner hears and responds to for its meaning. Input is defined as communication. Input is defined as rules. Input is defined as conversation. Input is defined as language a learner hears and responds to for its meaning. Your friend is asked to teach functional grammar. You have to teach functional grammar. She comes to help you. You tell her that functional grammar means teaching grammar in. So, principal said that you need to teach functional grammar. You are going to meet your friend will tell you what is functional grammar. What is functional grammar? Context, rules supported with examples, rules in isolation, explanation of literary content. Functional grammar is to teach the grammar in the context of the story, of the literature, of the poem. So, functional grammar is teaching of grammar in the context, contextual teaching. A recall type test is a test of thinking ability, memory, understanding, imagination. Recalling means memory. Children are motivated by activities that are meaningful to them, planned by an adult, meaningful to teachers, planned by children. Children are motivated by activities that are meaningful to them. If there is something to learn, if there is something in the activity for the child, then child will follow that. So, if the activity is meaningful, child will be motivated to do that. Planning by adult, planning by child doesn't cause any effect. You want to identify the deficiencies and difficulties of the learners in your class. You need to identify the deficiencies and difficulties of the learners in your class. Which of the following evaluations would you use for the purpose? Criteria referenced evaluation, summative evaluation, diagnostic evaluation, follow-up evaluation. Diagnostic will help to find out the root, find out the cause of the difficulty, of the deficiency, that is the cause, that is our purpose. If our purpose is to know the deficiency or difficulty of the learning, then definitely we have to go for the diagnosis, because diagnosis will help to know the why the student is committing error, what is the pattern of error. As a teacher, you prefer to use audio visual aid and physical activities in your teaching. So you are using audio visual aid and you are using physical activities throughout your teaching learning process. You do this because you find that they means audio visual aid and physical activities provide relief to you in the classroom. For your relief, will you do this for your relief? No. Divert the attention. If it is diverting the attention, why will we use this particular activity or aid? Facilitate effective assessment. Utilize maximum number of senses to enhance learning. Facilitate effective assessment. Are we going to use audio visual aid and physical activities just for taking help in assessment process? No. It utilizes maximum number of senses to enhance learning. If we are using audio visual aid and physical activities, all 5 senses of the student will be used. If all 5 senses are engaged, if all 5 senses work, then definitely learning would be effective. You go through the student's notebook and give remarks. You are checking the student notebook and giving remarks. Why are we giving remarks? Daily remarks, evaluation, feedback, notebook checking. You are doing this for notebook checking, you are doing for evaluation, you are doing for daily remarks. All are not appropriate. Why do we check notebook? We check notebook to give constructive feedback. Student is, for example, we have checked the notebook and we have given a remark that you need to work on your punctuation skills. You need to work on your capitalization. If we are writing in box, you need to work on your capitalization, and we use that red encircle wherever the student is mixing the capital and small letters. Student will get to know that I have to work on the use of capital and small letters while starting the sentences, while ending the sentences. This will work as a constructive feedback. So the purpose of checking the notebook and giving remarks is to give the constructive feedback to improve. Good speakers have the ability to paraphrase, quick analysis, understanding, translation. Now if we see the options, it's confusing. Good speakers would do translation, yes. Good speaker would do quick analysis, yes. Good speakers will understand, yes. Good speaker will do paraphrasing, yes. Now we have to choose only one option. The question says good speakers have the ability of paraphrasing. Now what is paraphrasing? Speaking one concept, presenting one concept through various ways, through various sentences, in various styles. Let's say your audience is not understanding, your audience is not able to comprehend. You can see this through the facial expression of your audience. Then definitely you will change your sentence. You will reduce the gravity of the complexity of the words, of your vocabulary, of your sentences. You will come up to the level of the audience. So this is paraphrasing. Ability to speak one concept in the various ways is paraphrasing. Rakesh, a student in your class, often makes errors in tenses forms. To help overcome this problem, what will you do? So Rakesh is making errors, and that too in tenses. How will you help Rakesh? Scold. Scolding is not allowed. Explain the grammatical rule. That's not a good idea, because we have learnt that inductive process, inductive method, inductive approach is good at primary level or foundational stage. Deductive is not that much effective. So option 3 is wrong. Ask Rakesh to write rule 10 times, which means again you are focusing on the memorization of the thing, you are focusing on the recalling of the thing, you are focusing on the revising the things or drilling. That is not allowed in constructivist approach. Take up many examples for the entire class. Take up many examples for the entire class and pay special attention to Rakesh. Which of the following are not related to emergent literacy? Not related to emergent literacy. Understanding that print carries meaning, early phonological awareness, basic alphabet knowledge. Basic alphabet knowledge is somewhat related to the emergent literacy. Early phonological awareness, catching up of sound, is somewhat part of emergent literacy. Understanding that print carries a meaning. You are holding a book in your hand and just turning the pages. So, which means you are understanding that it carries some meaning. It's part of emergent literacy. But taking notes is not part of emergent literacy. It means you are expert now. You are literate now. If you are taking notes, it means you are literate. It's not about emergent literacy. So, option 3 is the right option for us. Children who are differently abled join a new school. Okay, differently abled children have joined a new school. Teachers give different reactions. Which one reflects the concept of inclusive education or inclusive language teaching? Oh, how can I teach children who cannot even hear? Is it inclusion? No, it's the negative attitude of teacher. Oh, how will such children mix up with other children in class? Again, it's about segregation. It's not inclusion. Oh, there should be a separate section for such children. There should be a separate section for such children. Segregation, it's not inclusion. Wow. The moment you say wow to the different entry of differently able children, you are supporting the idea of inclusive education. Wow. It will provide a good opportunity for the children to learn, to help each other and be supportive. You love to have classroom discourse because you love to have classroom discussion because it does not give importance to learners' contribution, brings clarity and distinctiveness in the speech, hardly promotes the learners to think, gives you power as a teacher. Gives you power as a teacher, wrong. It's totally negative sentence. Hardly promotes the learners to think. If you are asking the children to discuss, if you are asking the children to speak, to present the discourse, will it not promote the learners to, opportunity to think? It will promote, but hardly makes this sentence negative. Does not give importance to learners' contribution. If the children is speaking, if the children is discussing, obviously we are giving that opportunity to contribute. We are giving importance to the learner's contribution. Brings clarity and distinctiveness in the speech. Love to have discussion in discourse because it brings clarity. It brings distinctiveness in the speech, which means uniqueness in the speech. Which among the following highlights the significant difference in Vygotsky's and Piaget's theory? The relationship between language and thought, the constructive objective role of children in the process of meaning making, understanding children as active passive learners, understanding that learning is a simple and complex process. No. Significant difference, language and thought. Vygotsky and Piaget are having different opinion on the concept and interrelationship of language and thought. One says that language is the cause of thought, another says that thought is the cause of language. The most important element in CLT, communicative language teaching, is meaning, structure of language, skill of writing, memorizing the rules of grammar. Memorizing the rules of grammar is not part of CLT. Structure of language is not part of CLT. That becomes the part of structuralism or structural approach. Skill of writing is not part of CLT. The part of CLT is meaning. In communicative language teaching, the purpose of teaching language is to make the children able to communicate the idea, able to communicate the meaning that they have in their mind. May it be with wrong grammar, may it be with wrong pronunciation, may it be with wrong vocabulary, but it should be of the status to clarify the meaning. If the child is able to communicate the meaning in the broken language, that is acceptable in CLT, communicative language teaching. Communicative language teaching prioritizes functional interaction and communicative competence. It focuses on functional interaction, it focuses on communicative competence. The primary focus is helping learners convey and comprehend functional meaning during real world tasks. You are in market, you should be able to speak. You are in bank, you should be able to speak. You are in school, you should be able to speak. You are in front of principal, you should be able to speak in the desired language, in the target language, not with perfection. Flawlessness is not required. Now perfection is not required. Errors will be accepted. Broken grammar will be accepted. Broken pronunciation will be accepted. Wrong pronunciation will be even accepted. Because the purpose to teach language through CLT is to teach how to communicate the idea, how to communicate the meaning. Which speaker would be most likely to engage in code mixing? Code mixing. Satyabir, a monolingual adult. Garv, a bilingual child. Meera, a bilingual adult. Arpita, a monolingual child. Garv, a bilingual child. Garv, a bilingual child. Code mixing involves hybridizing transfer patterns by embedding words, phrases, morphemes from one language into an utterance of another. For example, you must have observed that children speak like this. Look at the beautiful chidiya flying there over there. Now look at that beautiful chidiya flying over there. Chidiya is not the word of English. It's code mixing done by the child. You observe that Mandakini, a student of class 4, often makes mistakes while using tense. You can help Mandakini overcome this problem by giving her real life situations and examples where she can use tenses, asking her to memorize, no, explain or writing grammar rules, no, explaining Mandakini to write 10 times, which means rectification not allowed, giving them real life examples, real life situations where she can use the tenses to practice it practice it as becoming an involved learner and learn through the involvement in the society. This is even IL, involved learner. IL, involved learner, is one of the goals of Nipun Bharat, which says the children should be able to become involved learners. They should be involved through their immediate environment, respond towards their immediate environment. A language teacher wants to conduct a problem solving method effectively in the classroom. She should. What should you do if you are conducting or teaching any concept through problem solving method? Ask the student to consult their parents. Look at the students' activities from a distance, encourage a divergent thinking, participate actively in the process. You have to participate actively in the process. Yes, divergent thinking. Problem solving is related to divergent thinking. Various methods to think, various ways to think in order to solve a particular situation. A listener listens to the main idea, predicting, drawing inferences and summarizing. What are these strategies known as? Focus on main idea. You focus on summary. You focus on gist and then break down to the word or vocabulary or phonological level. So you start with the summary, you start with the main idea, you start making meaning on the basis of your previous knowledge. So are you starting from the bottom or you are starting from the top? You are starting from the top. Top-down process. Thank you so much. I hope we are able to understand some of the previous questions. We are able to recall, revise some of the learnings of previous classes. Thank you so much.